There's a really simple question that you can ask to get a pulse on where your customer's at in this journey. How are they feeling about their experience with you? But if you simply say, hey, how are we doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing? Then you know if they were always at a 9 and a 10 and it drops to like a 6, something happened. And it's much better to fix that issue right then than to wait until the very end of the project where that's continually festering and festering and festering.
Hey folks, Todd here from ConstructionLeadingEdge.com. This is the Construction Leading Edge podcast, and I'm here with our Director of Customer Success, Leyah Valgardson. Leyah, welcome.
Hello. Good morning.
Thanks for being on here again and for all the work you're doing to help our clients get great results. So today we're going to talk about one part of the business that, we talk a lot about profit bleeds, and profit bleeds are things that are costing people, but they never show up on an invoice and they never show up in the bank account. They're these hidden profit bleeds. And there's this whole other profit bleed, you could call it, or missed opportunity that so many construction business owners are experiencing and have no idea. They don't even know that they don't even know about it. So we're going to talk about this and how the costs show up, what the opportunity is to capitalize on. And I can tell you this, if you will grasp this and take Leyah's advice, you'll be able to differentiate yourself from the competition. I heard it was either Warren Buffett or Charlie Munger gave some advice once about their business philosophy. And they said, I want to be competing with idiots. And the reality is, well, there's probably two ways to look at this. One, if you're not doing this thing that we're going to talk about, you might be one of those idiots that your competition is pretty happy about. But another way to, maybe a more productive way to look at it is, by doing this, you'll make your competition look like idiots. They won't even be competing. You'll be in a category of one. So Leyah, take it away. Tell us about this thing that is costing us and we don't even know about it.
Today, we are talking about the customer experience. I think it's one of those things that as a business owner, it's there, but you're maybe not even thinking about it. Maybe you never have. You know that there is an experience that your customer is having. More than likely, you haven't been proactive in creating what that experience is for your customers. Or perhaps maybe you even have. Maybe you've thought about it. Maybe you've said, hey, this is the process, but you can't deliver on it. And therefore you fail, which is maybe even worse. And we'll talk about that a little bit more. But before we dive in, I just want to give you a little bit of background on why I know about this and my experience in either a great customer experience versus maybe not such a great customer experience. So I actually spent several years of my career working for some large production home builders, one of which was exceptional at the customer experience. Didn't mean they didn't make mistakes, but they had a very clear customer experience, and the whole entire culture lived and breathed this customer experience. And customers were overall very pleased, very happy. Lots of repeat and referral business, lots of great feedback, lots of good reviews about us as a company, versus a company that I worked for that did not have such a great customer experience. I'm actually going to share very briefly a story about that particular company that I worked for. So at the time, this was a new division. We were kind of working out the kinks, trying to figure out some things. And by the way, we did have a customer experience in place, but no one in that division was really following it. It was not top of mind. It was not very important to the leadership of that division. And we had a brand new community opening up. And in the first 13 homes that closed, we had a few challenges. And one of which was a family that I got to know pretty well. They were a great family. They were super excited to close on this new home, and they happened to have a special needs child who needed some additional things put into the home to ensure that that would work for them. So it was a bit of time to get some of those things done, and finally they were able to get their keys, I believe on a Thursday afternoon, moved them in. I was a sigh of relief because we finally got a house closed for this family that was waiting for so long, and went into the weekend ready to relax because it was a busy week. And I got a call at about 7:30 in the morning, actually several missed calls at 7:30 in the morning on a Saturday from this gentleman telling me he had a major leak in his home. his brand new home that he'd only been in for about 24 hours. And I lived about an hour and a half away from this community. And so as I'm jumping my car and I'm driving down to try to help these folks, I'm calling the plumber and he basically tells me to go pound sand. It's the weekend. He's not going to help me. And so I spend the whole entire day down there with this family, calling another plumber, calling mitigation, trying to get this whole thing worked out. And essentially what happened was they didn't connect the washer line to their laundry room, which was upstairs. So a massive flood came flooding down all through their upstairs, down into the main floor of the home, and just a complete mess. And so within the first 24 hours of moving into this home, this little family had to move out of certain areas. We had to tear everything out, and it was just a nightmare. I'm sure you can imagine. Now, mistakes happen in home building. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but the problem was we didn't have a clear customer journey or a customer experience in place for this family. And by the way, the other first 13 homes that closed in this division had similar issues. So it was a lot of fixing, a lot of having to go back, a lot of money spent. Can you imagine not only the reputation that we lost there, but the profit bleeds? There's so many different ways profit bleeds showed up in this particular situation. Of course, it was thousands of dollars in repairs that we ate as a company. Insurance premiums increased. We had a terrible reputation in a brand new division, in a brand new community. Lack of sales. It was a little bit tough to sell when we didn't have a great reputation. The employees were exhausted and worn out, and there wasn't a lot of pride with the employees, and they lost good employees. In fact, it became so bad and so stressful for me personally working there under that leadership and the lack of attention to what I felt was just doing the right thing that I left. I didn't have another job lined up, but I just couldn't do it anymore. My own personal reputation was on the line, and I didn't want to be there anymore. And by the way, this division had their overall division leadership turned over 3 different times within a year. So can you imagine? Do you think that's a bit of profit bleed for this company?
Huge.
This really goes back to, it is huge. Your customer experience, it does have a direct impact on your bottom line. It absolutely does.
So I think just talking about water leaks, 2 or 3 of the worst days I've ever had on job sites have been because of water. One was a roof leak. Yeah, I don't even want to talk about it. And another was a 12-inch water line that opened up outside of a trench we were working in. Another really long day. I thought we actually might die that day, but that's another story. So yeah, water's really bad. Water's never good on
Absolutely.
Job sites. But so let's talk about this customer experience. I think a lot of people might be thinking, you know what, my job is to build stuff. My job is to deliver a project on schedule, scope, schedule, budget, quality. If I do that, then that's my job. What's this talk about experience? So why is it a construction company's job to deliver an experience? Are you saying customers are looking for and they're buying an experience, or are they just buying an end product?
I think in today's world, they absolutely are looking for an experience. People are getting a lot more choosy with where they spend their money and who they spend their money with. And by the way, if we're talking about home builders specifically, I know we have a wide range of audience here. But if we're talking about home builders specifically, this is it is the biggest purchase that your customer will ever make. And they won't make it very often, maybe 2 or 3 times in their lifetime, right? It's a big experience for them, and they are going to be choosy about who they go with. It's not just about having something done on time or having quality. It's the experience. And it does need to be considered in every part of your business to create and to deliver on that experience. And so, of course, we're going to talk a little bit more about that. But we often don't think about this as contractors because it's not a profit center for our business. We're not making money when it comes to the customer experience and the customer journey, but it will cost you if you don't manage it. Just like everything, it needs to be managed, and it will cost you if you don't manage this and if you're not thinking about it.
Yeah. So home builders, I think most people would say, all right, I get it. People who are buying a new home are buying an experience. Sure, like buying a really expensive car, you're expecting an experience. But some of the people listening might be thinking, you know what, I do commercial work, or I'm a specialty subcontractor. My customer is a commercial general contractor. What are you talking about with them buying an experience? Or you might be saying, my customer is a municipal client and all of our work is public low bid. It's selected based on low bid. Mm-hmm. I'm here to tell you, I've worked with large Fortune 50 companies as clients, government entities, commercial general contractors, cities, state governments, and the customer experience is important with all customers. Your customer is buying, excuse me, I'm not getting emotional about this. I'm just getting a little choked up. But I'm here to tell you, your customer is buying an experience. They're buying an end result and an experience. And they will prefer the better experience. So it's the same reason that you probably don't have a Blockbuster card in your wallet or your purse anymore, because somebody else came along and they provide the same end result with a better experience. Netflix, mm-hmm. Amazon Prime, they provide the same end result. The end result is watching a movie on a screen. But it used to be that you would have to go to Blockbuster and hope they had the movie you wanted and maybe get it back. If it was like back in my day when it was on a VHS tape, back when I was a kid, back when dinosaurs roamed the earth. But they delivered a result with an experience. Somebody else came along and disrupted it because they provided the same result with a better experience. And mm-hmm. if you are stuck thinking, we just provided end results and our job is not an experience, then you probably won't have to worry about it very long, because you won't have any customers to deal with. Or if you think customers are a necessary evil that has to be dealt with so you can build stuff, don't worry, because you probably won't have customers very long, because your competitors who recognize that your customers are buying an experience along with that result will disrupt you. And you'll end up like Blockbuster. So it's really your choice. If you want to stick around and be relevant, you have to understand that your customer is buying an experience. Yeah.
And I appreciate that you said that this, I think it's easier to picture this for like a residential home builder, right? That 100%. You're like, yeah, that's an emotional buy. That's definitely an experience that they want to have. But to your point, our trade partners, our commercial contractors, your customers are as well. They're buying it with an experience, and it is still an emotional buy. People want to feel good. They want to know that they can trust you. They want to know that it's going to be easy and that you're going to deliver what you promised. And without a very specific customer experience in mind, and what I mean by that is that you are very proactively creating what this experience is and delivering on it. Either way, there's going to be an emotion tied to this experience, whether it's very proactive or not. And if it's a poor emotional tie to the experience, like you said, you'll become obsolete pretty quick. Your customers will no longer be your customers.
Yep. And I want to talk about this emotional part, because some of you are thinking, I'm commercial, I do commercial work, I do industrial work, I sell to general contractors. You're selling to humans, okay? Mm-hmm. And psychologists have determined that 95% of buying decisions are based on emotion and then backed up with logic. I'll say that again. You're selling to humans, and humans make 95% of buying decisions based on emotion, based on feelings. Then they back it up with logic, whether that's making a decision on a subcontractor, making a decision on who's going to be their home builder, who their plumber will be, who the real estate developer chooses to be the general contractor. Humans make buying decisions based on emotion. And that ties into the experience. So you got to understand, you're not selling to a company. You're not working with a company. Your customer is a human, and humans mm-hmm. behave in certain ways and make decisions based on certain ways. So let's talk about what are some reasons. Hopefully, we've convinced people of some of the reasons why they need to have a customer experience strategy. But you have a couple of maybe counterintuitive reasons, some reasons to have a customer experience strategy that may not have much to do with the customer at all, or maybe a little counterintuitive. What are some of those reasons?
There's a handful, and we're going to start with your employees, which, by the way, they are a customer of yours as well. Companies who excel at the customer experience, they have 1.5 times more engaged employees. And by the way, engaged employees outperform their competition by 147%. It really kind of comes down to to your internal or your engaged employees who are your customer. If they are happy there and they are committed to a customer experience, they want to be there. They have pride in what it is that they're doing, and they're going to perform better. We've seen this, and I know every one of us listening has experienced this because you've been that engaged employee at some point. You were excited to be at your job. You were proud to be there. And that just ultimately, it feeds into this great customer experience. So you will have more engaged employees, and there's a lot that we could talk about with that. I'm just going to run over these briefly. We're not going to spend a lot of time on them, but there's certainly things to consider. You will have lower acquisition costs. With a customer experience mindset, companies drive revenue 4 to 8% higher than their competition. And 84% of companies that work to improve their customer experience report an increase in their overall revenue. Bottom line, improved market share. Loyal customers are 5 times more likely to purchase again and 4 times more likely to refer a friend. And 96% of customers say that customer experience is important in their choice of a brand. I think that maybe even be higher these days. With social media and all the things that we learn from that, people are very choosy in where they go. And you have a lot of opportunity to read customer reviews, to hear how the experience has been with different companies. And I know I do that. Do you do that, Todd? When you're looking at different products and different companies, you look through what other customers are saying?
That's how I select restaurants and
Yes.
service providers. Absolutely. Social proof is huge.
Yes, it absolutely is. And in today's world, you can't get away from it. It just is a part of our buying culture. It's how commerce works now. Finally, and I think this is most important, it's just the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do to focus on your customers and in creating a good experience for them. Now, this statistic, I think, is probably really low and probably old, given what we just talked about with social media. But negative experiences that customers have, they're going to tell an average of 16 people. I think it might be a lot more than that, because if you post something on social and one person sees it and forwards it to another, it's probably a lot more eyes are on that. Now, versus a positive experience, they're only going to tell 9. So almost more than double they're going to tell if it's a negative experience. And I think that goes back to that emotion. When someone does have a negative experience, they are not happy and they feel like they've had a waste of their time and their money, and it doesn't feel good in any way. So one of the ways to maybe make themselves feel a little bit better is to tell everybody, don't go there. Don't have the same experience I did. There's several reasons, but I think those are the top ones, and many of them are tied to your bottom line.
So let's talk about some of the bad experiences people have. We're talking about feelings for the most part. So one of the things I hear most often is that our customers are losing trust in us. And what I found is when a customer on a construction project, somebody who's investing hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars, and if it's in a commercial environment, maybe their business or their job is at stake. If they're a homeowner, hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars is at stake. Either someone's building their new home or renovating their home. When that customer loses trust and they don't feel like their contractor is being honest with them, or they don't feel like their contractor, their builder understands or is capable, all sorts of ugliness starts to happen. When they lose trust,
Yeah, absolutely,
they start to scrutinize everything. So if you're seeing some of these symptoms, and I'm curious what you would add to this, Leyah, here's some of the symptoms. If your customers are starting to micromanage, showing up on the job site a lot more, asking lots and lots of questions, if your punch lists are a nightmare, if they're constantly questioning you, going around you to your trade partners and suppliers, those are symptoms of a customer, in some cases, who has lost trust. Their trust in you and your capabilities has been diminished. Is there anything else you would add to that list of symptoms of a customer who has lost trust?
I would also say they're probably coming straight to you instead of going through the appropriate channel, right? You have someone in place who's supposed to handle that customer communication. And if they don't no longer trust that person or your company is making the right decisions, they're going to come straight to you every time. Absolutely. So you as the business owner are going to have to deal with a lot of issues that you just simply shouldn't have to.
Yes. Yeah, they'll go straight to the top. Yeah.
Yep.
The other thing I've noticed is they are slow to pay. Or maybe they don't pay. Or at the end, they want to negotiate a discount. They want you to throw in giveaways. Yeah, slow pay, no pay giveaways is another symptom of a customer who's had a bad experience. I've dealt with it. I've dealt with customers, had really uncomfortable conversations at the end of projects, had to file liens and take legal action and sit across dining room tables on a Sunday afternoon and listen to a homeowner cry about their experience. And it's rough. But those are symptoms of customers having a bad experience. And then you mentioned employees. If your customer-facing employees, they're dealing with this stuff on a day-to-day basis. They're fielding the phone calls. They're answering the emails. They're looking at their phone thinking, oh, not this person again. Now what? Getting sucked into the problems of the day. So if your customer's having a bad experience, then it is a huge drain on you, your people, trade partners. It might be tough to get trade partners to go back to a project. Where the customer's mad. They could be really mad for good reason, but it just has a ripple effect and touches all sorts of things. So yeah, this is a huge deal. This customer experience, you may not realize it, but here's the thing. Your customers are having an experience. Whether it's intentional or not is really the question. And if you're not being intentional about it, it's probably costing you more than you can imagine. So we've talked about what a bad customer experience could be, what some of the symptoms are. Yeah, so why else does it matter for a construction business to really focus on their customer experience?
Well, I think one of the things we often talk about when we're helping our clients is many of them come to us because they're feeling this chaos and this frustration and just this constant stress. And having a good, solid customer experience in place and a good, solid customer journey, that eliminates so many of your challenges. And we'll get into this in a little bit, but it's not just something that you say, okay, this is how we're going to treat our customers and boom, we're doing it, right? It's not a magic wave a wand and it's done. There are some things that certainly need to be in place, but it will eliminate so much of your frustration, so much of your chaos, because you'd mentioned employees and how that really can affect your employees if they're getting these calls constantly. And by the way, a lot of times it's out of their control. They just happen to be the ones fielding the calls and happen to be the ones who are listening to the complaints and the crying and the tears and the frustration. And that is really, really hard to deal with day in and day out. And it will wear on someone. It will wear on you as a business owner. And eventually you just start losing good people. And by the way, you might even no longer want to do what you're doing, something that you're really good at, something you're passionate about, and you just lose the fire because it's so frustrating every day. And it is, I feel like you kind of can't win. But the reality is you can. And it just requires a little bit of effort and a little bit of work and a little bit of focus, just like every part of your business.
So let's talk about what do we do? What do we do next? How does one go about intentionally creating their customer experience?
I actually want to talk a little bit about the difference between a customer experience and a customer journey, because we're going to lead right into a customer journey, which is going to answer the question that you're asking me right now, Todd. The customer experience is everything your customer will experience from the minute they engage with you. And this may not ever be with you directly. It's going to be part of your marketing. It's going to be part of the reputation that precedes you. It's going to be how people are speaking about you and your company. And by the way, it also includes how people talk about the industry. This all fills in with the customer experience. Okay. So we often will hear, I know everyone has heard this, where they'll say, well, there's always delays in construction and there's always surprises and there's always this and there's always that. That reputation is already going to be in the back of your customer's mind, unless you have created a very different reputation with your business. Now that is fueled by your journey. So again, going back, the customer experience is everything that they experience engaging with you, whether you are very active in that or not. The journey is something that you take your customer on. Okay, so you want to think about maybe a roadmap or something where you are very proactively guiding your customer through the experience with you. Can you see the difference between those two? They tie in together, but they're different.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Okay. So, do you have any questions about that, the journey itself, Todd?
How do we do that? How do we intentionally start to design the customer journey?
Yeah, this is a good question. I'm going to actually outline 3 different things that you can focus on as a business owner to create a good customer experience and your customer journey. So just like with everything that we talk to you about through SYCB and what we're guiding you to do, your customer experience, it starts with a process and a strategy. Okay. Just like every other part of your business, that it needs a process and a strategy. So often when I'm talking about this, I like to equate this to like a play. There's the behind the scenes. There's all the stuff that's going on behind the scenes. And then there's front of house. So behind the scenes, this is where it really ties into what we guide you through in SYCB and creating some of those internal processes. As you have a lot of that dialed in for your business, obviously, it's going to reduce the chaos and the frustration. Things are going to run so much smoother for you as a business owner, but it also ties in directly with what you can create for your customer journey. When you have things working well for your business, again, behind the scenes, things that your customers don't necessarily see, but they're experiencing, it makes it so much easier to have a solid customer journey. And then there, of course, is the front of house. And that's what we're going to be saying to our customers. This is the journey I'm taking you on. Now, one thing I do want to make sure that it is very clear is that you must have this strategy, your customer experience, your customer journey. It must be really dialed in tight. And you know, without a doubt, 100% you can deliver on this journey before you ever market it to your customer. And Todd, I'm sure you can understand why that would be the case. What would be some of the challenges with saying, hey, this is the experience we're going to give you. This is the journey we're going to take you on. And you and your team aren't quite ready to deliver on that.
Yeah, you set an expectation that you can't deliver on. And expectations, that's where it's all at. If missed expectations, I've heard it said that missed expectations or unclear expectations are premeditated resentments.
Yeah.
So
and that's in every relationship, right?
Yeah. Any relationship between people. So if you're setting this expectation to your client, you're anchoring them to this expectation. Hey, we're going to do this and we're going to provide a great experience and we're going to do this and we're going to do that. And then you don't do it, or your sales team says this, or you say this, but then your field team has no idea what you're talking about. And they're not communicating. They're not doing all these things. Your customer feels like they got the old bait and switch. Mm-hmm. And expectations have been missed, and trust takes a hit. They start thinking, well, they told me they were going to do this and they didn't do it. What else have they told me that they're not going to do? And another analogy is trust is like an eraser. Once it's gone, it's gone. And it wears away over time. But once that trust is gone, things get real ugly. So you're better off if you don't have these behind the scenes or back of house systems in place. Don't start by setting expectations with your customers. You're just going to set yourself up for failure. You're better off just to fumble through the project. You're better off to say to your customer, look, we're a hot mess back here. We're going to do the best we can, but we're just flying by the seat of our pants. We're going to have a good time doing it. We're probably not going to communicate with you. You're better off to set really low expectations. Like, you're going to be really disappointed. This is going to be a mess construction is chaotic. So you might as well set really low expectations, like under promise and over deliver. That's going to be better for you if you don't have your systems dialed in.
Yes, absolutely. And one thing that you said there, which I think it plays in whether you have this journey in place or not, but we should always be under promising and over delivering. But what I mean by that, and especially if we are talking about the customer experience and creating a specific customer journey, is you want to kind of keep things muted. Like, hey, this is the journey we're taking you on. And then, and we'll talk about this too, you want to pop in moments of wow and ways that you are just over promising. Like you're wowing them and they're so excited about what it is that they're experiencing with you. So we'll get to that in a minute. But let's talk about those three things. So the very first thing is having a customer experience roadmap. And what I mean by that is that you want to have a way that you can communicate to your clients and to your customers that this is what you can expect in working with us. These are high-level touch points that you are going to proactively reach out to your customer and let them know what's going on as you go through the process. Okay. So one of the Toddisms that we often hear is left to right thinking, right? Or begin with the end in mind. So
right to left.
What is the journey
right to left
that you
thinking.
Want? Right to left thinking. Sorry.
Very different.
I was backwards
That's
on
right.
that. It is very different. Right to left thinking. Thank you. So when you know at the very end of this whole entire thing, and you're looking back and you're saying, what is this experience that I want my customer to have? That's how you're going to build that journey. Okay. So right to left thinking, where is the very end? And then let's work our way back. So we talked a little bit about what the difference between the experience and the journey is. So let's talk about this roadmap. Again, these are proactive touch points that you and your team are going to be reaching out and connecting with your client, something that they can expect from you. It's their journey, and you are telling them what the journey is. It's not a journey that they're trying to guess. It's not a journey that they're having to reach out to you consistently because they have no idea what's going on. It's laid out for them, and it's laid out from the minute they start connecting with you. It's something that maybe you can even have on your website to say, hey, this is the journey that you will have if you're working with us. So I'm going to just give you an example. Many of you, if you go to a lot of like large national home builders and look on their website, they probably have some type of a journey already outlined for their customers. It's just an easy thing for you to take a look at and go, okay, what in this journey could work for me in my business? I'm not saying this is what you should do specifically, but this is a really nice template to help you kind of start thinking, what could I do for me in my business? So an example, with many of the builders that I worked with, they would have something like a 5-step process or a 7-step process that they would take their customers through. And it really started out with the first part being a new buyer orientation. So the minute they signed and they knew they were going to work with them, they had an orientation with them. And they were kind of walking through some things with them and saying, hey, this overall is the whole journey that you can expect working with us. These are the different touch points that we are going to proactively reach out to you. These are some things that you need to expect from us, and this is what we expect from you. Things like you can't come on the job site unless you check in with sales first. It's a safety hazard. You have to have a hard hat. Children can't be in the homes without someone escorting them. Things like this, right? So you are setting them up. You're telling them what the journey is. And by the way, many of your customers don't know what construction is about at all. They have no idea. They have no idea the high level steps that go in. They don't know that you have to dig a foundation and then do forms and, I'm forgetting what's right before your foundation, footings. They don't know that you have footings and then foundation and then framing. They don't know that. And so even something that simple to say, hey, these are the steps that happen, the high level steps that happen, just educating them. That's kind of the first part. Then we would often have what we called like a pre-drywall orientation where their home is framed, all the electrical is in, everything's ready to go right before drywall. And it's a great chance to take them into their home and show them the quality of the home that you've built, to show them, hey, where are you going to hang that TV? What are you going to do? Whose bedroom is this? It gets to feel really like it's coming alive. The project is coming alive to them. So it's a good chance for you, again, to share and explain and educate, set more expectations. Then there was always an internal step that we called our quality assurance, where we went through and we checked the home up and down, wall to wall, every single faucet, every single door. And we let them know, hey, we're doing this for you. This is part of these 7 steps, but we're doing it internally to make sure your home's ready to go. And right before closing, we take them through and do an orientation, show them every part of their home. And then after closing, there were some follow-up visits to ensure their home was working and functioning properly and make sure that all the warranty was taken care of before those warranties expired. So again, this is very specific to a home, but regardless of what type of construction you have, you can see how you could create this journey for your customers. What would be those high-level touch points that you and your team would want to touch base with your customer on to take them through that journey, to communicate certain things with them, and then to also let them know, hey, this is where we're at, this is how things are going. And by the way, each of these touch points is a great opportunity for you to set expectations, which we already mentioned that, and we're going to talk a little bit more about it. But that's the idea behind having a journey. It's taking someone on it. It's having a roadmap, even physically, something that you can create in Canva that shows them, these are the steps that we're going to go through. This is what you can expect working with us.
Yeah, I heard a kitchen and bath remodeler named Brian. He was at one of my live events a few years ago, and he said, they're not professional customers.
Mm-hmm.
They're not professional customers. You do this every day, but they don't. So think about a time when you went to, maybe you sat with your accountant, or you went to a doctor, you went to some special technician, somebody who used a bunch of technical jargon, and you were engaged in some process you've never done before. And they just assumed that you knew the process and threw a bunch of acronyms out there. And you had to, prime example might be, if you've ever had to work with a city government to do rezoning or get a building permit or something like that, that's a prime example. You show up and you start fumbling through the process because nobody cares. They don't care about your customer experience. And you have to ask everything. What's the next step? Do I need to do this? Do you need to do this? Oh, no, you messed up. You missed a step. You need to go back and talk to this other person. That's the opposite of what we're trying to accomplish. And that's how your customers probably feel. Unfortunately, they feel like you do when you go to the permit office, or you go if you're dealing with zoning or something like that, or going to the DMV. That's how they feel. And you don't have a choice about where to get your building permit from, but your customer does have a choice. So very important to look at it from the customer's perspective and understand they're not professional customers. It's your job to lead them through the process. And another thing I would say is they want you to lead them through this process. Your customer doesn't want to fumble through. They don't want to lead the process. That's why they're hiring you. So it's not a case of let them have it their way. You need to design your process, and you need to lead your customers through that process. So you mentioned expectations.
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like the next thing in the three parts. Let's talk about communicating expectations.
It absolutely is. And you can see how this runs in conjunction with your customer experience map, roadmap, or journey, whichever way you want to put that. But we need to be setting expectations clearly and consistently. There's a lot of expectations to be set. I like that you said with one of our clients, how he said they're not professional customers. They're not. This is a lot of information being thrown at them quickly. So one of the things that I would suggest to you is that you are consistently setting these expectations. Now, these high-level touch points that you've outlined in your customer journey and on your roadmap, those are great times to set expectations. You're going to want to do that every single time you have one of those touch points. You want to set those expectations. Now, right up front, you're probably setting overall expectations of what they can expect to work with you. And then on every touch point, maybe you're adding a few more things in. Hey, in this next phase, here's what you can expect with us. These are the things that we need from you. Some ways that you can do that are going to be most effective that I have found is always have your customer sign off on something. Okay. You're going to say things verbally quite a bit. And what is it? We only retain 20% of a conversation that we have with others. That's pretty typical, right, Todd?
I don't remember. I've lost most of that. Yeah. Something like that.
Yeah. It's a very, very low amount that people are remembering. And it's probably even less when it's something that they're not real familiar with and they don't really understand. So I always think it's wise to back it up with some paperwork. And even if you can have them sign off just to say, hey, Mrs. Jones, we just talked about these things here. Can you sign this? There's so many ways you can do this electronically now where it's an easy thing for both you and your customer, because I guarantee your customer's probably going to come back to you and ask a question that you already set an expectation with them. But if you say, hey, do you remember back when we had that meeting, that pre-construction meeting, and we signed off on this? Oh, that's right. There's something about putting pen to paper that it connects in your brain. So your customers, even if they don't remember it right away and you remind them, they're going to remember it. And this is why expectations are important. You get to decide what your process is. You get to decide how you do business with your customers. That's up to you. And if you're clearly communicating that right up front and you're setting that expectation with your customers right up front, it's an easy no, right? If they know the minute they walk through the door or even on your website or whatever the case may be, some questionnaires that you're having them fill out before they even meet with you, if you're already setting some of those expectations and they know, okay, if I work with this builder, I have to have all of my selections done by this date, no exceptions. And again, you get to choose that. They already know it. It's not a big deal. But if you start down that road and you get to a cutoff and it's a week later and they say, Bob the builder, I want to add this. And you say, oh, I'm sorry, you missed the cutoff. That is not an expectation. That's now a disappointment. So it does not play well for you. So again, I want to go back and just say that every time you have one of these high level touch points that we talked about in the journey, you should be setting expectations with your customer. And a good way to do that is with some type of a document that you can share with them. Now, we've had clients do some really cool things with this. I would encourage you to avoid doing really sterile legal looking documents. So basically a Word doc with a bunch of bullet points. That gets really boring. People don't like that. It just isn't engaging. It's not fun. It's not part of your culture. You can do some really beautiful things. In fact, we had one client that shared some of what she has done that was completely in brand with her company. And she had a handful of documents that she created and she shares with her clients from the minute they go to her website and have an inquiry. And it basically outlines and says, hey, these are the steps up until this next point. And then from there, she had another document. These are the steps till this point. And all of it was beautifully done and branded for her company. We have some other companies that we've worked with that are more commercial in nature, and they've also done the very same thing. They've outlined what their process is. And again, it's in a way that is very engaging to the customer. It doesn't look sterile. It doesn't look legal. It's in line with your brand, and it sets clear expectations with your customer. So when we talk about communicating clearly and consistently, you want to line those up with what your journey is with your customer and then have something to back it up with. It just makes it so much easier for you to be able to continue to have that communicated well with your customer. And by the way, it makes it easier for your team too, because customers often will try, it's kind of like a child with parents. They're going to go to whoever they're going to get the answer that they want from, right? But if you and your team know what your process is, and you know what the customer journey is, and everybody is speaking the same language, arms are all locked, your customers know that this just is what it is, versus what many of us have probably experienced where your customer's calling everyone they possibly can to get the answer they want. It will just eliminate that. You no longer have to worry about it.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I spent a couple of days with a builder in Virginia a few years ago. And the owner was really frustrated because his team wasn't following the process. His team wasn't, what it came down to is his team was was not confident. So they were giving customers what they wanted, doing things that were costing the company money, kind of getting walked on by the customer. And as I dug into it, I realized this is a confidence issue. The customer didn't have anything to back them up. They didn't have the confidence to be able to say, no, that's not how we do it. Or no, that's not an option. Or here is when you need to make your selections by. Or they didn't have the confidence to not answer the phone at 7 p.m. on a Saturday. So the ripple effect of that is they call somebody else. They call the owner, because they don't have confidence. So if you're getting walked over by your customers, and if your people are constantly calling you, hey, what do you want to do about this? Hey, the customer asked about this. Hey, how do you want to handle this? It's not your people's fault. It's your fault because your people don't have confidence, maybe because they don't know what the process is. Maybe it's because everything's locked away in your head. Your expectations are locked away in your head, and your people can't read your mind. So a few expectations that I would recommend setting right off the bat would be communication. How and when do you want your customers to communicate with you? Is it only through Co-Construct, Builder Trend, Procore, etc.? How often will you communicate proactively with them? Will you send them daily logs? Will you send them a weekly update? Will you take phone calls outside of normal business hours? Set those expectations. But communication expectations are huge. That would be one of the lead dominoes. Set expectations about payment. If you expect to get paid in 30 days, 10 days, etc., set those expectations very clearly. Set expectations about which decisions need to be made and when they need to make those decisions. You may want to lay out a decision matrix in your contract. You need to make these key decisions by this date. Set expectations on when changes can be incorporated. And let them know we can change things up to this point. After that, no can do. It's going to be egregiously expensive, as I like to say. And then meetings. Are you going to have meetings? If this is in a commercial environment, how often are you going to have progress meetings or OAC meetings? Who should be there? Set expectations about these things. Again, you're leading this project. If you sit back and wait for the customer to lead it, you're going to be really frustrated. So you need to get into the driver's seat. And a good way to think about developing this list of expectations is, where do we keep having friction in our process? And friction is a sign of just a lack of clarity. So find the friction, develop the expectation, then decide where in your process you want to set those expectations. And I heard this from one of our clients, Jake, I talked to the other day. He said, clear is kind.
Absolutely.
Clear is kind. You may think you're being unkind or difficult by setting expectations, but you're actually being unkind by being unclear with your expectations. So clear is kind. Okay, so what's the third part, Leyah?
It absolutely is. The third part are seeking ways to wow. So I want to make it clear. I want to set an expectation that you kind of have to have those first two things in place first. This is just the cherry on top, right? This is the icing on the cake, if you will. Without those first two things, this really can fall pretty flat. So first of all, you want to have a clear customer journey or a roadmap that your customer understands what you're taking them on, and then you're setting those clear and consistent expectations throughout the journey. Then let's think of ways that we can wow our customers. So I had mentioned earlier that a lot of times we don't even think about our customer experience, or sometimes we even ignore it because many times we think it costs us money. It's going to, especially if you ignore this. However, it doesn't need to cost you money. Wowing your customers doesn't have to cost money. And in fact, I highly encourage you not to throw money at your customer experience. It's not necessary. There are just little things that you can do at every one of these high-level touch points that can, again, tie your customer in emotionally. You're essentially just reaffirming that they made the right decision in working with you. Okay? You're reselling every time you have a chance to meet with them. So a couple of things you can do here. Number one, it doesn't need to cost you a single penny. It's in the way that you engage with your customers, and I'll share some different ways that you can do that, some examples of that. Secondly, you can add this into the budget. It doesn't need to be outlined and a line item, but you can add in some of these things into the budget. So ultimately, your customer is paying for this part of the experience, this red carpet experience, if you will, but you are creating an incredibly powerful and impactful experience for them that they are going to just be raving about you. And I'm going to share a really cool example from one of our clients, something that he does that I think is exceptional. So I'm going to go back, if you will, to the 7-step process that I'm pretty familiar with having worked with production builders. So I had mentioned that we do the pre-drywall orientation with our clients. Something that I think is a great opportunity for you to do if you're a home builder with your clients, taking them through the home is finally framed. It starts to feel like it's going to be your home. Some of the things that our superintendents would do with their clients is if they had children along the tour with them, as they're walking through the house, they'd say, "Hey, little Susie, which broom is yours?" She'd point it out and they'd take out a big Sharpie and write her name really big on the floor. It's their home. It's going to be covered up. But can you imagine how impactful that is for that little girl and for that family to be like, this is my room. I get to be in this room. I've also had some who had some religious homeowners, and they allowed them to write scriptures on the walls of their home before they framed it. Another thing, you're often with these big TVs today, many of them are light, but a lot of times we want to have extra backing. You're going to do it anyways. It's part of the package of building the home, but they wouldn't put the framing up. They wouldn't put the backing up until they had that meeting with the buyer. And as they're in their big main living room, they'd say, hey, Mr. Jones, what kind of TV are you going to put in here? What sports are you going to watch? You know, they're starting to connect with them emotionally. And he's showing them right where he's going to put it. And they're like, I'm going to put some extra backing here to ensure that your TV is not going to fall. You're going to do it anyways, but you're getting the wow factor. Can you see where I'm going with this? There are little things I guarantee every single one of you are already doing for your customers. You gotta get paid for it. That's how I put it, is get paid for the things that you're doing. This isn't an arrogance about it, but it's simply letting your customer know, hey, we're doing a little bit more for you than the competition. You're not going to say it exactly like that, but you are saying, hey, Mr. Jones, I'm going to put that extra backing in there to make sure your TV doesn't fall. Those are just a few little things. They're not costing you anything. But can you see how that's emotionally tying your customer in? They're wowed by this. They're excited by this. They trust you even more. They know that you are just as invested in this emotional decision that they've made. So that's an example there. Another one with what we called our new buyer orientation. So when we did our final walkthrough, we made it very clear that we had already done a good job of doing the quality control on their home. So today is all about me introducing your brand new home to you. I'm going to show you some different things in your home, how to work your home, how to maintain your home. And what we did with one of the builders I worked for is they got these big red carpets. They were about 5 feet long, about 15 feet long, 5 feet wide and 15 feet long. And they would roll it out on the nice clean driveway and then put a ribbon across the garage door with big gold scissors. And when the buyer pulled up, can you imagine what that looked like for them to be able to walk up the red carpet and to cut the ribbon on their brand new home? That was really impactful for a lot of them. They just were so excited about it. And then we, of course, would take a picture of it and frame it and have it for them on the day that they closed on their home. So just little things that you can do that will help wow your customer, get them even more excited. And it just reaffirms that they made the right decision to work with you. Those are some little things. Now I want to share this idea that comes from Mikhail, one of our clients. He does some high-end remodeling and he builds this into his budget with his customers. But when they are approaching the end of the project, he lets them know that he's going to throw basically a housewarming party for them and that they can invite whoever they want to. And so they get a list from the customer of who they want to invite. They bring food, they bring drinks, they invite all the trade partners that they can who worked on the home. They also invite potential customers as well as current customers who are working with them to come to this big housewarming party to show off this beautiful rendition or this beautiful remodel that they've just finished. And can you imagine being that homeowner who gets to welcome everybody into your beautiful new home? You get to brag about it. You get to show everybody. You get to show friends and family. You get to meet with the contractors who did this for you. You get to talk to potential clients. You get to talk to current clients. And yes, this does cost a little bit of money, but it is, again, built into the budget. And whoa, what a wow factor. I think this goes really quite a long way for these customers. And I just mentioned some of these things to get the ball rolling, to get you to start thinking about what are some ways that we could wow our customers? What are some ways that we could really get them excited? And engage your teams in this too. Ask them, hey, what are some good ideas? What are some things that we could do to really have a great customer experience for our customers?
Yeah. Thinking of a couple of examples. Let's say you're a commercial general contractor. You may be thinking, well, how do we engage? How do we do something like this? One thing that I've seen a few times is a topping out ceremony. This could be a regional thing, but typically the topping out ceremony is when the last steel beam goes into place. There's a topping out ceremony, and what I've seen done several times is the client invites their team to come out and sign the beam, to put their names on this steel beam while it's on the ground. Maybe it's painted. We did a project for Valvoline and painted it white. The Valvoline logo was on there, placed it somewhere and gave all the Valvoline employees an opportunity to come out and sign it. had a topping out ceremony, put the little Christmas tree on there and flew it into place. And people get excited about that stuff. And then ribbon cutting ceremonies are always great to be part of. Another no-cost, low-cost option is to ask your customer what's really important to them. Find out what's really important to them, and then just do that. So one of our clients, Andy, is a remodeling contractor, and one part of their customer experience is they take the garbage cans out to the road and bring them back in every week. They are very cognizant about keeping pets in the house and in the yard. Security, making sure that people know that their house is secure while it's under construction, things like that. Another thing, something similar to what Mikhail does is Phil, who's in Canada, does something brilliant. He does whole house remodels, and he owns a townhouse that he had on Airbnb. And he realized that one of the biggest problems that his whole house remodel clients had was finding somewhere to live. So he just added some money in the budget. And whenever he does a project for someone, they move into his Airbnb for the duration of their remodel. So when they move in to the Airbnb, it's all clean. There are flowers on the table, linens, it's fully furnished. And then when the project is done, he helps orchestrate the move back into their house. It's all clean, and they absolutely love it. And they pay for it. Mm-hmm. Phil gets paid for that. He just includes it in the budget because it's a huge part of the customer experience. So a lot of people, the knee-jerk reaction to these things is, well, we can't afford to do that. Well, okay, maybe, but people will pay. People are buying an experience, and it's a great way to distance yourself and differentiate yourself from the competition. So give us a quick review, Leyah. What were the 3 steps to laying out and establishing your customer experience journey?
You want to have a customer experience journey, so have some type of a roadmap that you're taking them on, and they can see that very clearly right up front. Then you want to set expectations clearly and consistently. And finally, find ways to wow. Now, of course, there's a few more things that go into this, but those are the main points. And if you can really get those dialed in and engage your team, I think that's an important part too. Bring your team into this. Ask them, what do you think would make sense? How can we wow our customers? What points do you think would be the most impactful to connect with our customers? What expectations do we need to set with them? Engaging your team with those 3 things is really going to be helpful too. And also, by the way, it'll infuse that culture of customer experience all the way through.
Yeah. So we talked about some of the symptoms of a poorly designed or unintentional customer journey, like stressed out team members, frustrated clients, low trust clients, lots of phone calls, a team that's not confident in answering questions and dealing with issues, which means as a business owner, you end up getting sucked into problems. You get sucked into a lot of day-to-day firefighting, lots of phone calls, text messages, difficult conversations with unhappy customers. And then the ripple effects of that are you're pulled away from, you don't have time to do the strategic stuff. You are just in constant firefighting mode, and you don't really have time or energy or bandwidth. You may even be like, screw this, let's just light a match and burn it all to the ground because I'm tired. I don't want to have another conversation with somebody crying about dust on their windows. I've felt that way. So these are very painful things, not to mention potentially missing out on opportunities for repeat business, referrals. That's the bad thing about good referrals you know about, but isn't it frustrating when you find out that the client you finished 2 projects with is just you see a sign go up from another contractor. Somebody else is doing their third project. You're like, what happened? Usually they don't come to you and say, hey, we had a bad experience with you. Here's how we'd like you to fix it. We want to give you another shot. It's not usually the way it goes. Usually they just go to somebody else and you find out about it the hard way.
Yeah, that's painful.
Yeah. So let's talk about what's in it. What are the positive ripple effects of really spending time? What's in it for me? One thing I like to say is everybody's favorite radio station is WIIFM. What's in it for me? So a few things I jotted down here would be what's in it for you to focus energy on designing your customer experience and designing your customer journey. Referral business. You will get more referrals. You will get better ratings. You will get more repeat business, which is the holy grail, right? Talk about reduced acquisition cost. What if you don't have to compete for work? Mm-hmm. That's a good thing. Your employees will stick around longer. So retention, improved retention. And we have a huge retention problem in the construction industry. And it might be because there's so much chaos in the business. So retention is a big deal. I feel like you're going to have a better company culture. Your team members will be more confident because they know what the process is. They know what the expectations are. They're confident telling people, I'm sorry, but no, we don't do that. Here's how we do things. This is how we do it. And what that's going to mean for the business owner is fewer phone calls, less firefighting, more time to focus on the business instead of being sucked into day-to-day firefighting. Is there anything else you would add to that list, Leyah, of to answer the question, what's in it for a business owner to focus on their customer journey?
It's kind of implied in what you said, but I think there's also a great form of pride, knowing that you have created, not only do you build something beautiful, not only is your end product incredible, but you also have really happy customers and you have happy internal customers too. Your employees are proud to work there. They know that you have created the best and they want to be there. They're excited to tell people where they work. They're proud of what they do. And your customers are really proud that they went with you as well, right? There's this sense of pride that they can say, hey, I hired so-and-so to build my home. Come and take a look at it. And by the way, let me tell you about my experience. So there's certainly a sense of pride. You know, you get to wear your hat, your logo hat and your logo shirt out in public and you're happy about it. Your employees are happy about it. Who doesn't want that? We want to be proud about the things that we do. That's human nature, to be pleased with the efforts that we put in.
That's a really good point. So we're talking about the customer experience, but when you focus on providing a good customer experience, you're going to have a better experience, right? You're going to build the project. You're going to do the work. You're going to go through you're going to spend the time. And you can either have a good experience, or one thing I've heard from a lot of people is, we build a great product, but then when we get to the end, the customer's like neutral, maybe disappointed, and it just really bothers people. Again, great product, but they're just not, maybe they were friends with the client before and it hurt the relationship, or they're a little nervous when they see that person in the grocery store, like, because there wasn't a good experience. So I think in some ways it's a kind of an integrity issue.
Yeah.
We want to provide, it is an integrity issue because you make these promises to clients, you set these expectations, and you want to deliver on them. I think everybody wants to get to the end of a project and have dinner date clients, as Manish likes to call his clients. You want to have clients at the end of a project who you're better friends with than you were at the beginning. People you would go out and have dinner dates with or hang out with after the project. And that just feels good. So you're going to have a better experience. You're going to enjoy the process a lot better by spending time focused on the customer process. Yeah, I like that.
There is one thing I should have mentioned this when we were talking about setting expectation and specifically about communication and like, what is your communication plan going to be? How regularly will you communicate? One thing that I would recommend is in those consistent communications, however you and your team decide to put that together, there's a really simple question that you can ask to get a pulse on where your customer's at in this journey. How are they feeling about their experience with you? You could word this how it makes sense for you and your business, but if you simply say, hey, how are we doing? On a scale of 1 to 10, how are we doing? And internally, you can decide what your threshold is. Anything below 8, you're not okay with. So let's figure out what's going on. And by the way, if you're doing that consistently and you're getting a pulse of your customer all along the way, then you know if they were always at a 9 and a 10 and it drops to like a 6, something happened. And it's much better to fix that issue right then than to wait until the very end of the project where that's continually festering and festering and festering. And that's when you get some of those people avoiding you at the grocery store or just you kind of feels like it fell flat and you're like, what happened? I thought we did a great job. Well, maybe you think you did, but something happened here where maybe, again, I think it's probably a missed expectation somewhere. But that's just another little tip to throw in there. If you're constantly taking the pulse of your customer and just asking that simply on those consistent check-ins and saying, hey, how are we doing on a scale of 1 to 10? Then you and your team can address anything if you need to right away.
Yeah, that's a great point. Those feelings are going to be there and you might as well deal with them. And the best way to be able to deal with them is to know that they're there. Hey, seems like we went from 9s and 10s to this. What happened? Where did we drop the ball? Just take ownership, solve it, and address the issue. Yeah. So great stuff. All right. So here are some action items for you. We've spent the last hour talking about customer journey. So you need to take action. So our advice would be there are 3 buckets of things to take action on here. Number 1 is, what are you going to do with this? Even if it's just a 5-minute action item, what is one thing you can spend 5 minutes on that will improve your customer journey or start to establish your customer journey? It could be, you know what, I'm going to schedule a meeting with my team and we're going to brainstorm ideas. We need to fix our communication policy. We need to spend 30 minutes developing a list of customer expectations. But take some action, do something. The second thing I'll share is that over the past year, it's become very apparent that providing resources related to designing your customer journey is incredibly important. So we're working on some resources and we need your help to put them together. So if you could take a short survey, and that would be incredibly helpful. It's a 2 to 3 minute survey. We'd love to get your feedback on what's most important to you. What are the biggest challenges you have? What do you need the most help with when it comes to designing your customer journey? So if you could go to constructionleadingedge.com/CX customer, or that's constructionleadingedge.com/CX. Take that short survey. That would be helpful. So it's a sort of a Jerry Maguire type situation. Help us, help you. Help us, help you, right? And then the third thing is, the third action item would be, if you recognize the need for having those behind the scenes systems put in place. If you realize, all right, we are a hot mess, we're flying by the seat of our pants, and it's because of a systems and process deficiency, then there are 3 crucial systems that you need to have in place. This is the work that Leyah does a great job at in the Systematize Your Construction Business program. But number 1, you need to clearly define roles and responsibilities for your team. Clearly define who's accountable for what results. You need to be in a position where you can delegate outcomes and results. This will increase the confidence of your team, provide a lot of clarity about who is accountable for what. And the best way to do that is to design your accountability chart for the future. The second crucial system to put in place is to design and document what we call your nail the handoff process. This is a very disciplined pre-construction process that maps out every step of the process prior to the start of construction. A lot of the chaos comes from this overlap of pre-construction activities going on after construction starts. This will eliminate the majority of the chaos, schedule delays, profit bleeds, and uncomfortable conversations you're having on your job sites. It's what I would call a lead domino for eliminating chaos. And then the third part is implementing leadership systems that your team is going to use to convert these goals, your scheduled dates and objectives, into reality. For example, somebody needs to be planning tomorrow's work today. Somebody needs to be creating 2-week look-ahead schedules. Somebody needs to be sending out daily logs to the customer. Someone needs to be sending weekly updates, leadership systems, things that need to be done every day, every week, every month. So those crucial systems are your accountability chart, your nail the handoff process, and leadership systems. So the reality is you could probably figure all this stuff out on your own through trial and error, right? You could spend months, if not years, experimenting, iterating, trying to figure out something, and dealing with the time and energy and mistakes that come with the learning curve. One of the best pieces of advice I can give you is you don't have to figure this stuff out on your own. Just go find a proven system and use it. It's the same reason that you use QuickBooks or CoConstruct or Buildertrend instead of building your own software, right? You probably could go build your own accounting software, but why would you do that when somebody else has already spent years and hundreds of thousands of dollars developing that? When you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You just get to take advantage of the years of work and all that capital somebody else has done. It's the same reason that you don't have a concrete plant or a lumber mill, right? You just want to use it when you need it. Take advantage of all the work somebody else has done. And that's what you're going to get with a good coaching program. You're going to get proven system, new ideas, and accountability. That's why professionals from all walks of life invest in coaching. Race car drivers, tennis players, NFL quarterbacks, basketball players, major league pitchers, you name it, every professional has a coach. Even CEOs have coaches. So, and one of those things you really need is accountability. That's one of the things we hear most often is I need somebody to hold me accountable to do the things that I need to do. So here's the good news. You can get the results you want. You can get these crucial systems in place that will support your customer journey and give you all the things we just talked about. Help you get out of day-to-day firefighting so you can truly be the CEO of a business that runs without you. And you can do all of that without having to figure it all out on your own. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. So my advice is go find the best coaching program out there that has a proven system and that's a good fit for you. It's very important. They have to be a good fit for you. And then invest what it takes to work with them. And if you would like our help, if you'd like to work with Leyah and myself and Manish and our team to help you put those crucial systems in place in your business, the accountability chart, nailing the handoff, and leadership systems so that your business can run without you, then here's your next step. Go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, APPLY, and schedule a breakthrough session with our team to discuss our Systematize Your Construction Business program. And you can go check out the results that people have experienced from builders, general contractors, trade partners. You can go to constructionleadingedge.com and click on the results tab there. But if you want to schedule your breakthrough session, go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, schedule that call, and we will take the first step and help you map out that plan. Leyah, it's been great. Thanks so much for all the work you're doing and for talking about the customer journey. I feel like people have a lot of homework to do now, a lot of gears grinding and wheels turning. Anything else that we need to cover before we wrap up today?
I think we covered a lot, but I'm just going to go back to what you very first said on as some action items. Do something today. There's something you can do to help your customer journey, to improve your customer experience. So whatever that is, I know there's something that we talked about today that kind of pinged you a little bit and you thought, oh, I really need to do that, or I never thought about that. So whatever that is for you, please do it. It will make a difference for you and your business.
That's how things change, with small shifts, small adjustments, small steps. The only way to eat an elephant is one bite at a time.
One bite at a time.
So get started, do something. All right, great stuff. Thanks, Leyah. And take Leyah's advice. Do something with this. And if that something is schedule a call with us, then go to constructionleadingedge.com/apply, and we will talk soon. Thanks so much for listening. See you next time.